All right, everyone. Hey, welcome to Comic Artist Pro Secrets. My name is Ethan Van Sciver. Good to be with you. Hello, everyone. Just in time. Oh, I can't wait. Look at this. Hangouts on the Air is still going away. We're still notified about that. Let's get rid of this. Good to be with you tonight. Very, very happy to be with you. Sean Tillman says, where's your hoodie? I try not to wear the same thing the same week, you know? I try to remain fashion conscious. I try not to look, if I make a fashion statement like the hoodie, I can't do it more than once. I can't do it over and over again, or I have to get a new hoodie. And how many hoodies am I going to get? Good to see you guys. Great to have you around. Great to be here. As we discuss the stuff that we usually discuss. I mean, you know, my live chats are getting angrier and angrier, I'm hearing. Well, I mean, you know, stuff's crazy. Shit's popping off. What are you going to do? Let's see who's in here. Mr. Pinchy says, so humble. Sean Tillman, LOLs. Eric Weathers is here. He says, wear the hoodie. Be on brand. Well, we could do that. Maybe we'll do that next time. Maybe we'll get a lot more hoodies. NPM has a good idea. NPM1125 says, buy a Geeks and Gamers hoodie. Seriously, everyone should. Everyone should buy a Geeks and Gamers hoodie. I think that would be a smart thing to do. Very fashionable, too. Geeks and Gamers is gigantic. It's gigantic right now. So we got two Johnsons, and they're both being dicks, believe it or not. Two Johnsons that are both being dicks. Two of them. 1, 2. Hail EVS says NPM 1125. Simon Oliver says all caps and no pie makes Ethan an angry boy. Yeah, you know, Andrea said while I was away, did you work on your diet? I said I had no sugar. I was good. I had 0 sugar. Logan Michael Anti-Funko Pops says those original Superpowers figures in the back. Oh, yeah, they are. It's Green Lantern, Flash. By the way, that's Barry Allen Flash, the character that I brought back, thus destroying Vertigo, according to SJW rumor and innuendo. We've got Brainiac and Firestorm, I think. Those are the ones that I have. They're not in the best condition. They're okay. I mean, they're still on the card. They've never been taken out or opened. But they're not perfect in any way. Hoth Rebel says, diet. You mean pie it. I haven't had a pie in forever. When, you know what? When autumn comes around, there's no telling what I'm going to be doing to the pies. All right. There's no guarantee that I'm going to lay off of the pies. But as for now, by the way, I sent a message to your boy Zach and said, hey, you want to go live? He didn't answer me. And do you know why he didn't answer me? Because he's reading Cyberfrog Blood Honey right now. He's the first person. Your boy Zach is the first person to read Cyberfrog Blood Honey. Is he? No, Kyle hasn't read it. You know, Kyle hasn't read it. I sent the whole file over. And your boy Zach is the first one to ever read it. You know, other than the editor and, you know, the letterer. So he's just like, I'm at my hotel. I'm going through Cyberfrog now. I said, you want to read it? He said, yeah. So we'll see what he thinks. I got to say, I'm nervous. You know, I read it and I read it all the way through again. And I just went, I hope it's good. I hope, I hope it's okay. It's not as it's I Here's what's frustrating about Cyberpunk Blood Honey. In order to do what I wanted to do with this one story, it needs to be 200 pages long. I really want more. I want more space. Like in my head, I want an entire hardcover Walking Dead book just for the first issue. And there's no way. I mean, I just have to recognize that, no matter how big I make these comics, they're not going to be big enough. And this is just chapter 1. It's the first installment. I get to do a chapter 2. Presumably, you guys are going to let me probably give me a second chance to do another book. And we just continue from there. I just keep the story going. But it's so frustrating because it's like comics take a long time to make. And it's like when you're done, you're like, okay, this is a good 30-minute read. And I wish it were a 3-hour read, Berserker Pride says the trade paperback will be 200 pages. Yeah, I know. And even still, that won't be enough. I wish I were faster. I wish I were a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. I do have a girl who looks good, but I'm not going to call her because she's asleep. With a Z, Cooper says didn't get a notification. See, that's the problem. That's what YouTube is doing right now. YouTube is slamming my channel just a little bit, but I'm not somebody who bitches and whines. I just try to overcome it. I just try to do better and better work, and then eventually YouTube has to admit, and they roll over. All right, so 2 Johnsons, and they're both being dicks. The first one. The first one is in the title. So let's actually go and look at Rian Johnson, who is the director of Star Wars: The Last Jedi, if you didn't know. Rian Johnson is he's been the subject of many videos on my channel because he ruined Star Wars. I mean, he had a lot of help, but I think Rian Johnson, more than anyone else, his attitude, his take on the mythos, and what he did with Star Wars: The Last Jedi, I think he is responsible for dispiriting more fans and causing more harm to Star Wars than anyone else. Any one particular person, even Kathleen Kennedy. I mean, Kathleen Kennedy, well, let me think about this. Kathleen Kennedy is the person who pulled out the gun and pulled the trigger. The gun is Rian Johnson, the bullet is The Last Jedi, and the victim is Star Wars and Star Wars fans. So this is a question. This is kind of a classic Second Amendment question. Like, I suppose Rian Johnson is a gun capable of doing great damage to people, but guns don't do anything on their own. Obviously, there has to be somebody who pulls the trigger, and that person is Kathleen Kennedy. She's the one who actually positioned Rian Johnson to be able to destroy Star Wars. And she did it for stupid reasons. She said, he makes me comfortable. He makes me very uncomfortable. I got to be honest with you. This guy is a weirdo, and he does make me pretty uncomfortable. It's funny because Rian Johnson seems to have caught anti-Christian fever being in California, I guess, as long as he's been. I'm not saying Californians are anti-Christian. I'm simply saying the Hollywood culture doesn't understand Christianity, doesn't understand the Midwest, doesn't understand why men would take pride in saying, I am a Christian husband and father, in that order. I was thinking about this, by the way. I was like, what's more important to you? Like, if you really had to make Sophie's choice, is it your spouse or your children? I don't want to think about that too hard. But in any case, most Christian men are very pleased. I mean, they don't say, I'm the film director of Star Wars: The Last Jedi. They say, I'm a Christian husband and father. Those are the first things. And then I'm also, I don't know. I research messages from aliens from other worlds. Whatever your job is, if you have a cool job that you want to tell people about on Twitter. I work the satellite dish. What is that program that actually waits to hear from aliens? I would like to, I'd put that in my byline, my Twitter byline. I'm waiting to hear from aliens. Instead, I have to hear from Rian Johnson on Twitter, who at one point, it seems, understood. He understood this thing. This is a tweet I found from him from a year and a half ago, and he explains that, my family was pretty religious growing up. So movies like The Temple of Doom and Poltergeist, I only got to experience through novelizations, which were, of course, even more gory than the movies. SETI. Oh, thank you. Yes, SETI. Everybody's telling me SETI. God, I love you guys. You guys are on it. You guys are on it. I always forget the dumbest stuff. I couldn't even remember petition. The word petition escaped my vocabulary 3 times. I tried to recall the word petition in 3 different live streams, and I couldn't remember it. I can remember a bevy of other facts, but sometimes I miss words. I'm getting old. You guys can see that. You guys look at him and go, he's getting old. He's a young man in his heart, but he's getting old. His mind is failing him. It's not going to be long before we put him in a home. Hunter says, where do you want to be buried, Dad? What do I do? I said, I'll dig a hole and kick me into it. That'll be fine. Throw a little dirt on it. My family was pretty religious growing up. This is the first Johnson that's being a dick past couple of days. My family was pretty religious growing up, so movies like Temple of Doom, I was allowed to see that. I was raised Mormon. I was allowed to see that. I saw every bit of that. I saw the pulling out of the beating heart. Kind of upsetting. That movie is, if you look back, like that movie is it unacceptable by today's standards? I feel like it's unacceptable by today's standards. TLJ Russian Bot says, EVS, not to break any topic, but is the Deadwood movie any good? Yes, it is, but you need to have seen the show all the way through. If you don't see the show, you won't care. You won't care. But Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, by today's standards, going over and meeting Indian people and finding out that they eat bugs and monkey brains. I don't know if they do eat chilled monkey brains. And if they do, I don't think it looks like that. That created xenophobia in me. Isn't that ironic that Hollywood built xenophobia into me? I blame Spielberg. To a lesser extent, George Lucas. I blame these people for why I'm afraid to eat monkey brains. And why I think if I go to India, they're going to dig their nails into my chest through my breastplate. They're going to dig. Think about that. Think about digging your nails into somebody's breastplate through the bone and pulling out their still beating heart and grinning at it. Kali Ma. That's why I haven't been to India. Jared, thanks for $1. SSJ Future Gohan says, was hoping you'd stream. My hopes were answered. Yeah, I'm going to try to stream every day. Things are back to normal here. Andrea is home. She was out of town for the weekend, and I had to watch Ava. So that was focus number 1. And now I'm back to making videos and drawing. So Ryan Johnson grew up Christian. He wasn't allowed to really see Temple of Doom and Poltergeist, 2 movies that, even though I told you guys that in the 1980s, Ryan Johnson and I are probably close to the same age. In the 1980s, we had VCRs, and the VCRs were kind of expensive. If you're middle class, you might have one VCR. Your neighbor will have a VCR, and you would get them together and you would pirate. You would literally steal movies because the actual movies themselves were so expensive. If you wanted to buy a copy of E.T. the Extraterrestrial on VHS in 1983, it would cost about $88. That is unaffordable. You can't afford that. It's too much. So you rent it for $2.99 at Rite Aid, and then you get 2 VCRs, one that you borrowed, and you plug them together and you duplicate the movies. And as I was telling you, and because you would borrow the neighbor's VCR, you'd make them a copy too. You'd end up going and buying boxes and crates of blank VHS cassettes so that you could steal movies. And my mom, she copied everything, and then she edited out all of the nudity, like Stripes. There was no sex scene in Stripes. I mean, and she would take it right up to the point where something happened, or something, right up to the point of booby, and then she would cut it out, and you would just see a rainbow stripe on the horizontal hold. Oh my God, what did I miss? Echo Base Network says, I just supported Mike S. Miller's book tonight from the Geeks and Gamer stream. I got the EVS one. Is that a cover you did or something? I hope so. Yeah, it is. I did a cover for Mike. Aaron Stepien says, SJW mentality made my mom retire from U of M. Yeah. And as I told you guys, Ghostbusters 1. I mean, I had Ghostbusters 1 pretty much all the way through. If somebody said the F word, it got edited out. Wow, Trevor Wright, thank you for $20. Appreciate that. Says EVS, I work at Disneyland, and the results are in for Star Wars Land. It's officially a bust. They lifted the blackout dates for cast members for the summer. Another win for the fandom menace. LOL, it's so funny. I'm hearing bad things about it too. I don't believe it yet. I got to go see it. Yeah, so my mom taped Ghostbusters. If the F word were in it, it was out. The Dan Aykroyd ghostly blowjob scene was removed from my copy growing up of Ghostbusters. But my mom let me see all of Temple of Doom and all of Poltergeist. She didn't care about gore. Thank you, Mom. Thank you for not caring about violence and gore. It was sex and nudity and bad language. So Ryan grew up in a similar environment. Fortune and Glory, EVS, Fortune and Glory, says Hammer. Cass Hermoso says, I hope EVS will visit Galaxy's Edge. I hope I will too. I'm planning on going to Florida though. Blasted Heath says, gore is better than sex. Well, it certainly informs Cyberfrog. You know, it's like Cyberfrog, there's no sex, but there's a lot of gore. And I like that. You know, that's that was okay. I wonder if Ryan Johnson was allowed to see movies with sex in them in his pretty religious family. So in any case, this is interesting. Ryan Johnson grew up in a Christian family. And today, by the way, how do I do this? We'll do this first. Ryan Johnson's complaining about people who are criticizing him. People are criticizing Ryan Johnson, and he looks at their profile. So this is the thing. If you say something mean to Ryan Johnson, rest assured. And by the way, it's probably a good idea if you are going to say something mean to Ryan Johnson, put it right in your Twitter profile. Hi, Ryan Johnson. You have a circular head. Just put it right in there. Be like, hey, you know, this is my name. Right here it says little gray cells. Like, that's your Twitter profile. Like, people can see that even if they've muted you. If somebody's muted you and they go and look at, they can still see that. So just put a message to Ryan Johnson right in your Twitter profile. Hi, Ryan Johnson, you circular skulled buffoon. Because it turns out that Ryan Johnson is muting everyone. Okay, Ryan Johnson is muting everyone. We'll get to that in a minute. But first of all, Ryan Johnson is looking at people's profiles who criticize him, and he's noticing one consistent thing. He's noticing something over and over again. He's noticing that the people who criticize him often have in their profile Christian father husband. And he says the Christian father husband thing is really weirdly ubiquitous. Ubiquitous. That means it's everywhere. Ubiquity. Remember the Jesus twins, feel my ubiquity from the Howard Stern show? Feel my being everywhere. Feel my omnipresence. Okay, that's another way to say ubiquity. Ubiquitous. Ubiquitous. To the point where I wondered if it's a bot thing. So Ryan Johnson thinks that if you, that probably there are Russians. Probably there are Russian, this is part of the whole thing. 2020 is coming around. The election's coming around again. Obviously, the Russian bots are back in action. Russian bots are out there. They're doing shit. They're causing chaos. They just want Donald Trump to be president again. And who even knows? Who even knows what these people are capable of? So this is one way Ryan Johnson theorizes that you might be able to tell if it's a bot, if the person you're speaking to who's criticizing you is actually a Russian plan. It's just a programmed machination, just an automaton on Twitter that is just sent out to bother you, to call you names, to tell you that the Last Jedi sucked. This is the Russians that are doing this. Christian father husband is probably a good way to tell. That's probably code word. That's like a code phrase. Okay. Jeg says, gee, it's almost as if Christian men value family. Almost. That's an alternate explanation. TLJ Russian bot. Okay, so here we have somebody who admits to being a Russian bot who hates The Last Jedi. Gives me $10 to say, I saw Poltergeist and Temple of Doom in theaters. Poltergeist is much worse, in my opinion. I'm 42 years old, and Rian Johnson is a complete wank. Those are two unrelated facts. Honestly, when Leia was flying through space, I knew he was who he is. Yes. So Rian Johnson thinks that if you put Christian father husband in your profile, and by the way, these are things that I recommend at this point. I think it's a good idea if you're going to criticize Rian Johnson on Twitter, or if you're going to just say hello to him, if you're going to talk to him in any way or say anything that might baffle or confound him, just put Christian father husband in your profile. And they said, hi, Rian Johnson. Hi, Ryan. Hi. Hey. Hey there. Hey there, sweet pants. Ryan. Whatever you want to say. James Rogers says Russia is number one. See, that's the attitude that lets people meddle in our elections. Yeah. Hey there. Hey there, honey bunch. All right, so in any case, this is Ryan having a nervous breakdown. Now, Ryan also, there was some confusion here. This was a tweet that he tweeted at me yesterday. He calls me Ethan. Don't call me Ethan. Call me Caesar. Do not call me Ethan. We're not on a first name basis, Ryan. You can call me Comic Artist Pro Secrets. You can call me Mr. Van Scover. You can call me Caesar. I will call you Roundhead. My bitch Sustain said, we are just bad robots. Woo! Sticking that dagger right in there. All right, so he's saying, Ethan, I can't hear you. Did you say something? Did you say something? No, you can't hear me because I'm typing on Twitter. So it's not, there's no vocalization happening here. All right. Now we wondered, I was like, wait a second. Is he saying, like, what is he saying here? Is he saying that he's like above me and what was the point of this? No, what he's saying is this. Ryan is saying, I'm muting everyone. So he tweets this. He says, it's 2019. And you can see this guy, Matt Zoller Seitz, who's a critic for Roger Ebert. Hail Caesar, says Jared. Thank you, Jared, for $5. Appreciate you, my friend. Which one of you sent this tweet? Was it the Christian, the husband, or the dad? You can see from Rian Johnson's point of view, this tweet is not available because you've muted the person who sent it. This tweet is not available because you've muted the person who sent it. Ryan is going around muting everyone, so that's what he wants us to know. Ryan wanted me to know, out of all of the people that talked to 298 people who talked to him, look at this ratio, by the way, 131 to 298. The 300 people here yelling at him. Fandom Menace. Versus 131 people who enjoyed his temper tantrum. Did you say something? He wants me to know that he's muted me. So yeah. Ryan. Thank you for muting me, Rian Johnson. And thank you for letting me know. Thank you for letting me know that. I appreciate it. I can't hear what you're saying about me because I have you on mute. I just want you to know. Look, I mute people too, Mostly I don't tell the people I mute. Sometimes I have to tell them. I'm mute. I have you on mute. So I missed that. I don't know, But he wants to tell me. He's like, I can't hear you. Nah. I have my fingers in my ears. This is very strange behavior for an A-list Hollywood director. I don't know if he's A-list, but he's a Star Wars director. This is very strange behavior. And then to wonder if Christian husbands and fathers are bots sent to attack you. I would say that it's time to talk to someone. Kev23568 says A-list. I don't know. He directed a Star Wars movie. I'm not sure. David Watts says you should mute Mike S. Miller. He muted me once. Unhinged Crank says, is it any surprise that The Last Jedi was so creepy and cynical, coming from this creepy and cynical guy who celebrates harassment of fan criticism? No, it's no wonder. I mean, it's no wonder this is who he is. Gotham Knight says, when will you accept that you are king of comics? I'm not the king of comics. I'm Caesar of Comicsgate. That I accept. I like it. He's so conceited. He calls me, thinks he's Caesar. I like it. I like it. Caesar of Comicsgate. If you look at my profile, let me look at my profile. Caesar of Comicsgate. It's first. That really bothers people. Hail Caesar of Comics. No, Comicsgate. Death Rattle says, Caesar, father of nations, husband to all genders. These are the genders. These are my pronouns, they, them. You want to know where I am, my location, look into your heart. Okay? Simple as that. By the way, I found this Batman picture that I drew. Do you guys like this? Thank you. Tempest TV says Ethan is good, but he is not God of Comics. Thank you, Tempest TV. All right. So in any case, that is the first Johnson that's being a dick. Now, second Johnson that's being a dick. Ryan Johnson, Ryan Johnson is an egomaniac. I think that's clear. I also think he's extremely thin-skinned. I think that's clear too. I don't think too many people are going to debate that. But we have someone else. We've got a fellow named Rich Johnson over at Bleeding Cool. Rich Johnson of Bleeding Cool. He is, what would you say, a liar? Is that putting too fine a point on it? Snake oil salesman, propagandist, bullshit artist, social justice warrior. And the thing is, Rich Johnson at Bleeding Cool, which is, by the way, one of the most treacherous websites in comics because it's filled with ads. Your computer will catch computer AIDS if you go to Bleeding Cool. You will be, your computer will be ill, terminally ill. Don't go to Bleeding Cool. And as I say this, I prepare to go to Bleeding Cool. I do it for you guys. Now, Bleeding Cool has recognized, because Rich Johnson is somebody who is a propagandist for social justice warriors in comics. He's here to defend them. He is here to cover for them. He's here to protect them. His stories are dishonest. His stories are written to very cleverly target his enemies, his political enemies. He has insiders within Marvel and DC Comics. They're social justice warriors. One of them is a fellow named Andy Corey, who is an editor at DC Comics, who is a great big social justice warrior, a racist, sexist. And I mean that I can pretty much say that if you tweet out to someone, if you tweet out to the world, I'm at war with white men, I would say that would make you a racist and a sexist. You know, pretty sure that just by definition, that would make you a racist and sexist. All right, so that's who this guy is. Andy Corey works for DC Comics. He is the guy who single-handedly destroyed. Hold on, let's do this one first. Look at look at this. This is what I'm talking about. Here's the AIDS. These are the symptoms right here. I'm not feeling well. My computer isn't doing so well right now. It's not doing so hot because I went to bleeding cool. My God, are you okay? Are you all right, Alienware? Are you okay? My overpriced and underused gaming computer, are you all right? My computer's like, we can handle it. We can handle it, Ethan. All right, I hope so, because I got a show to do. I can't have my computer calling out sick because we had to go to Bleeding Cool twice on one show. Bleeding Cool is the most garbage website in comics. It is a symptom. It might be the little black bug in the heart of the dying animal known as the comic book industry. You want to know why the comic book industry is so scared, so sick, dying at this point? It's because our media is entirely made up of assholes like Rich Johnson, excuse my language, who, by the way, I got some criticism. People are going, hey, Ethan, with the language. And that's how you say it in Jersey. You don't have to say cool it with the language. Just say, hey, Ethan, with the language. I got it. I understand. Let me try to calm down. Have a drink of water. Maybe that'll help. A lot of people are like, Ethan, with the cussing. I got it. I understand. Here's the thing about Comicsgate. We're a customer service movement, first and foremost. If you guys say stop cursing, I got to stop cursing. I got to control my language. But I'm a man of passion. I'm a man of wisdom and insight, but also fiery passion. 25% Italian in my blood. Did you guys know that? 25% Dutch, 25% Italian, 50% British, Irish. The Baker side of my family. The Baker side. That's my mom's maiden name. Van Sciver side, grandfather Dutch, grandmother straight off the boat, Italian. Great cook. 25% Italian, fire in my blood. You wouldn't know it to look at me, okay? I understand that I literally look like the Dutch boy on the paint can, except old and bald. But I have fire in my veins. Coke Man says, who cares? Coke Man, lighten up. All right. Achura77 says, hey, Ethan, about the fucking language, stop being a pussy. All right. That's one attitude. That's one way to look at it. All right. So here's where we're at. We have been talking about Vertigo, the company that was the imprint at DC Comics. Vertigo was an adult creative imprint within DC Comics. By the way, thanks Gotham Knight. I had all 4 of my wisdom teeth taken out today, and I have constant oral pain. You bring me joy today. What's your experience with wisdom teeth? I had them yanked in 2008. I said, lighten my jaw. Yeah, it sucked. It makes a cracking noise when they pull them out. It's weird. Heath Lawrence says, don't worry about the language, Ethan. We understand. You sat through Captain Marvel. I'm a man of passion. That's what I'm just. I have energy and electricity in my veins. Let me calm down. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this reasonably. Saniko says, swear jar for pies. Thanks for $2. Well, I'm the one who's supposed to pay, like, when I swear, not you. Not you. I mean, why would I make you do that? Vertigo, a comic book line founded on SJW values? Question mark. Rich Johnson is a liar and a snake. SJWs are all liars and snakes. SJWs want to confuse you about who they are and what they do. The big lie of this article that Rich Johnson is trying to perpetuate is that social justice warriors are just liberals. Rich Johnson wants to go through Vertigo. He wants to go through DC's history, and he wants to point out random instances in DC Comics and Vertigo Comics in which the creators, surprise, we're liberals, we care. We have bleeding hearts. We care about people. We're progressives. We want to make social change. But we're here to, the difference between liberals, and by the way, liberals, don't get me started on liberals, except it's the difference between liberalism, when it comes to my perspective. Liberals are like dealing with mosquitoes, blood-sucking, despicable pests. Whereas SJWs are rattlesnake infestations. There's a difference. Both suck. Okay? But one of them is going to kill you. One of them is actually dangerous. One of them is toxic, venomous, poisonous. I don't know if rattlesnakes would ever try to convince you that they're just mosquitoes. I'm sure if they had the brain pan and the speech functions, they would try. I'm sure that would be something that they would try to do. But in any case, Rich Johnson is a rattlesnake trying to convince you that he's merely a mosquito in this article. And he's pushing back against what me and your boy Zach have been pointing out that's transparently obvious, that at least in this particular case, and especially in this particular case, Vertigo Comics, the imprint of DC Comics, went under, because Andy Corey is a social justice warrior who is poisonous, and he hired poisonous people with poisonous values, with a poisonous lack of values, some of whom were actual criminals, who irresponsibly put DC Comics in PR risk, gave them PR nightmare after PR nightmare, and created books that were entirely based around attacking their political enemies, not around actually entertaining people, making money for DC Comics, and then somewhere in there, see, those are the first two things right there. That's your job. Your job is to entertain people. Your job is to make money for DC Comics. Those are the first two things. Now, if you can slide in there, if you want to, because you're a liberal, a little bit of progressivism to shock the normies, you can do that. You can do that. They'll let you do that. Should you do that? That's a different question. But you can do that. It's not going to destroy an entire line of comics. But you see, the problem is that Andy Corey is one of Rich Johnson's insiders at DC Comics. Rich Johnson talks about having valuable sources at DC Comics. He speaks directly to Andy Corey, and Andy Corey tells him a lot of stuff that DC Comics would not like Andy Corey to be spilling to Rich Johnson. I will tell you this, DC Comics does not like Rich Johnson. DC Comics is not crazy about Rich Johnson finding out scoops, finding out stuff. They have to deal with it all the time. I'm pretty sure, DC Comics, that at this point you must know one of the biggest leaks in your company is Andy Corey, who you handed the Vertigo brand to, and he destroyed it. He used it to attack his political enemies. He used it to give jobs to people who did not deserve them, whose entire purpose for being there was to make a point to tell people that Andy Corey didn't like that he doesn't like them, and that he has the power to employ people like Zoe Quinn, give them jobs. So let's go through Rich Johnson's dishonest little ridiculous article here. Of late, and I can't stand his writing style. It's so, it's just so slimy. It's so slimy. Rich Johnson has realized that we've kind of, we're kind of onto him at this point. Rich Johnson recognizes that Comicsgate at this point, we're not going away. And we're identifying what the problems are within comics, and we're making a big deal about them. We're getting out there. My videos and Zach's videos and Umbrella Guy's videos, Yellow Flash's videos, our videos get more views and more interaction than Rich Johnson's articles do at Bleeding Cool. He has 26 comments. He has 26 comments. Let me just go back and just see, just to be petty. Last time I spoke about this was a couple days ago. Let's see the video and we'll see exactly how many comments I have. I'm not going to show you. You'll have to trust me. I know that you'll trust me. Last live stream, JJ Abrams checkmates Ryan Johnson. 20,786 views on a live stream. Those are rewatches on a live stream. 2,674 thumbs up. 34 thumbs down. That's an interaction. 281 comments. We're way bigger than Bleeding Cool is. We're way bigger than Bleeding Cool is. So, this is the counter message. This is the attempt to counter what we're saying. And by the way, when it comes to Andy Corey and when it comes to Vertigo, when it comes to DC, I have no stake in this except for my love of comics. When I say fire Andy Corey, I'm not saying it because I have a personal grudge against him. I could give a shit. I'm saying it because I care about the comic book industry. DC Comics was good to me for 20 years. And I see a problem. And if they wanted to, for their own sake, they need to plug up this hole. They need to plug his hole. T. Masakai, thanks for $7. He says, keep the faith, Uncle Ethan. Let him have it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. You guys are sending me money today. It's kind of you. Again, it keeps Ava in diapers and it keeps me in healthy fruits and vegetables. Not pies, not baked in pies. Raw vegetables that I can blend with kale and get healthy. Cal Vilmer says, how many views do you think the articles on this site get? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure. Let me scroll down and see. Is there a way to see? 26 comments. 10 responses. Related posts. How do you tell? I have no idea. I don't know. Sorry about that. I hate to scroll like this really quickly on your screen. It's a mess. Keanu Reeves says you're breathtaking. Well, thank you, Keanu Reeves. So are you. I love your work. How many people are watching right now? Let's just double check and see. It's good to know. On a Monday. Is it Monday today? Yeah, it is Monday. I'm pretty sure. 1,269 people watching right now. Monday at 12:06 a.m. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Right in the work week. So it's Tuesday, actually. It's Tuesday. We'll click on comments. Don't worry. Right of late, an argument is being made loud and clear, mostly by the hashtag Comicsgate activist group on social media, that the Vertigo brand failed due to, frankly, SJW bullshit. The phrase "get woke, go broke" has been repeated ad infinitum. And this has been emphasized by pointing out recent Vertigo books such as Border Town, Hex Wives, and Goddess Mode, while ignoring any of the other titles the publisher may have been putting out. Okay, so what he's going to say here, and his whole thing is, Well, I mean, look, there's been liberal. First of all, SJW is the same thing as liberalism. Okay, it's lefty liberalism. It's the same thing. So you're saying that the content of the book, they're lying and saying that the content of these books is what caused them to get canceled. No, no, it didn't help. It didn't help, but no, that's not the thing. The thing is, that's not what SJWs are. We'll talk about what SJWs are again. We have to. But Rich, you're demonstrating what SJWs are. Rule one of SJWs: SJWs always lie. Always lie. It just seems to utterly ignore the history of DC and Vertigo and the comics preceded the setting of that brand. Look, they were all liberal. Look, diverse sexuality, liberal politics, anti-war, ripping apart racists were the themes of the day. So in other words, by the way, there's an extra little message in here that if you oppose liberalism, you oppose the idea of ripping apart racists, punching Nazis. Punching Nazis. God, that's so annoying. Punching Nazis. So if you oppose social justice warriors, you oppose efforts to stop racism. Here we go. This is his long list of things. Sandman gave us the character of Wanda, a trans character fighting all over the world, fighting the world over who she was against the moon, which doesn't recognize her identity. Transmetropolitan was a walking, talking Hunter S. Thompson who didn't so much punch Nazis in the face as shoot them with bowel disruptors. That makes more sense to me, by the way. Shooting Nazis with bowel disruptors makes a lot more sense than throwing a milkshake at them. I mean, if they're actual Nazis, presumably. Enigma from Peter Milligan and Duncan Fegredo was the superhero comic book that had a character come out as gay towards the end of the book, and the first lead gay character in a superhero comic published so widely. And yes, there were letters. There were letters of complaint. Did you know 20 years ago there was a gay character in a Vertigo book? Checkmate, incels. Thank you, Zach. I hope to God. All right, Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing's environmentalist. Why the Last Man? What's this story? By the way, Why the Last Man? Condemned for misandry and the SJW-ness of the worst kind for a story that killed off all but one of the men in the world. That's a great story. That's not SJW. Jeg says SJW is about as liberal as much as Lenin was a capitalist. Liberals need to believe in liberty. Ask Thomas Jefferson, and he shot people for high taxes. See what they're doing here? The biggest problem, now he's saying the biggest problem Vertigo faced was recruitment, thanks to internal changes imposed from Warner Brothers and offered a deal. So this is actually kind of true. There's a little bit of a point to this. DC Comics said, hey, we're not going to let you own as much of your comics as you want anymore. We're not going to do so many creator-owned deals. And some of the bigger creators, the ones like Neil Gaiman, decided to go somewhere else. Garth Ennis, let me go do my books somewhere else for these other, smaller companies here rather than Vertigo if I can own my property. So that's a big deal. So what does that mean exactly? What are we saying here? That all that was available were the losers that Andy Corey hired, Rich Johnson? So because of the deal that was available, you're basically saying that everybody that ended up working for Vertigo post this new deal setup was basically it's all they could get. They were just weirdos and losers, scrounged up from the corners of the internet by the Pied Piper of SJW, losers and weirdos. Andy Corey, who basically is like is a spy for you within DC Comics. No wonder you're defending him. No wonder we don't see his name being mentioned. No wonder you don't mention Andy's name. Still, where's his name in this article? Where's Andy's name? Why won't you use Andy Corey's name? I don't see it. Again, this is like the third article you've written about the demise of Vertigo with more and more lies, more and more excuses, and I don't see Andy Corey's name. That's interesting. But to those who argue the Vertigo died due to SJW bullshit over the last year, when arguably that's the very kind of thing it was founded and prospered upon, are you telling me that Karen Berger was an SJW? Now let's talk about what SJWs are. SJWs are not liberals who want to combat racism. Liberals, as far as I know, look, they want bigger government. They want to endlessly fight, for civil rights causes that may or may not exist. The idea that women are paid less than men is a lie. These things, but even still, the idea of equal rights, sure, this is what liberalism is essentially. Social justice warriors are monstrous, extreme left-wingers. They are activists. They are far left-wing activists who have banded together and adopted a set of tactics that involve coercion, threats, and ruining people's lives. They invade a business that's prosperous. They invade a platform that's prosperous. They pretend that they're innocent. They pretend they find their way into HR positions. They find their way into positions of great power with very little responsibility because they don't take responsibility for anything that they do. And they work to implement policies within that company that punish people who do not adhere to a strict set of politics, associations, all of it. This is what social justice warriors do. And then they use the platform that they have and they begin espousing dogma. They begin espousing extreme leftism. And if you do not fall in line, if you appear to be different in any way, if you appear to have a different opinion, if you oppose them in the slightest way, they will make an example of you. If you hang a Dilbert cartoon in your cubicle, you will find yourself before human resources, explaining to human resources why you are hanging right-wing propaganda that hates women in the workplace, that demeans women, where other women can see it. You will be sent to some kind of you'll be sent to some re-education camp to be taught to be better. Just be better. Just try harder. Eventually they will remove you. Ultimately, they are using Saul Alinsky tactics to create a single like-minded, quote-unquote, community of far left wingers or people who are too afraid to speak out against them so that they can implement social change at social gunpoint. They lie, they project, and they always double down. They are not normal people. They're not liberals. You and I have liberal friends. Maybe some of you in the audience are liberals. You speak to them, you can disagree with them. You may not even like them because you just don't agree. This person rubs me the wrong way because we disagree so strongly. That is not what a social justice warrior is. Andy Corey is a social justice warrior. He found his way. He originally worked at Comic Alliance, which was a far left-wing comic book website, which also, under his leadership, went broke, went out of business. And when it blew up like the Death Star of soy that it was, it scattered all kinds of horrible social justice warriors all over the social media universe. Individuals like Kieran, what's his name, Shiak, who also worked at Comic Alliance. Individuals like, God, who are these people's names? They all look alike to me. Matt, whatever. Bunch of fat white guys with soy beards and thickened, bespectacled, spotty faces. Malnourished weirdos. Andy Corey landed on his feet because DC Comics hired him. And now he's at DC Comics. First thing he does is he starts leaking out information to other SJWs. Second thing he does is start hiring SJWs. That's what they do. So Andy Corey brings in, they give him responsibility. And initially, SJWs will try to keep their heads down. Oh, Andy Corey's kind of a liberal, so let's give him Green Arrow to edit. That makes sense. No, he's a social justice warrior. He's going to immediately hire some of the most noxious, horrible people that he interacts with, people who cause trouble for a living on the internet. He brings in Zoe Quinn. When given the opportunity to bring a new line of Vertigo projects, new Vertigo, he brings in Zoe Quinn. Zoe Quinn hires Robbie Rodriguez to be the artist. Why Zoe Quinn? For what reason? Is it because you really enjoy her comic book writings of the past? No. There's only one reason to bring in Zoe Quinn to DC Comics. There's only one reason. It's to send a message to people. It's to send a message to your political and ideological enemies. That's the only reason to bring her in. It's not to sell comics. It's not to entertain the world. Andrew Huerta says, Border Town only happened because New Vertigo was looking for a Latino book by Latinos. I'm pretty sure that's not how old Vertigo operated. Thank you, Andrew Huerta. Jason Mathis says, we should really thank Ryan Johnson. He set the bar so low that there's no way the next Star Wars will be worse than this. I don't know about that. We'll see. There's only one reason to bring her in, and that is to give the middle finger to a whole section of DC Comics readers. Zoe Quinn, you don't know. Zoe Quinn was one of the main subjects, one of the main issues that caused Gamergate to happen. Why? Well, look, there's a whole subculture that I'm not aware of, that I wasn't aware of. I'm dimly aware of it now. These are gaming devs. These are people who develop video games on an amateur basis and on a semi-professional basis, and sometimes on a real professional basis. They develop video games. You can put them on Steam, I guess. You can make money with the video game you made on Steam. But it really helps when you're developing a video game if you can actually get the media. If you can get the media, video game media, to say, hey, this is a great game, then that's going to really help you. That's going to help you sell your video game. And you might get attention from, bigger video game companies. So a lot of these video game media companies were talking about this game called Depression Quest, giving it great reviews. Depression Quest. It's a depression simulator. You can find out what it's like to suffer from debilitating depression. That's the video game. That was the video game she made up. And it was one of those choose your own adventure stuff. Like, I could probably make this video game. I don't know how to do anything. I could barely make my iPad work. I could probably make this video game. Depression Quest. You wake up in the morning and you want to kill yourself. The whole world seems black to you. Should you put on your shoes and go downstairs and get breakfast? Hit A. Or should you get back into bed and cry? B. Hit B. Or should you go cut yourself in the bathroom? C. And it's just a choose your own adventure style video game. For some reason, the media was going crazy about this game. They loved this game. Video game developers were looking at it and saying, this is shit. And it's weird shit, too. Why is everybody talking about this like it's good? Turns out Zoe Quinn had slept with all of them. Her boyfriend released a whole big thing about it. I've been cheated on. This woman who I gave my heart to is sleeping with all of the main guys who work at these media outlets. Whores like like Rich Johnson. Whores like Rich Johnson. Was a big thing. This is what kicked off Gamergate. So wait a second. Basically, anyone can come in here and can start handing out sexual favors to the people who you need to impress in order to have a career, and they get pushed to the front of the line? Where are the ethics in journalism? Where is the ethics in the gaming media? Ethics in journalism. That's what it was about. And it became much, much bigger than that. But Zoe Quinn was at the center of it all. That's who she is. That's all she is. And of course, social justice warriors within the video game community all banded around her like, this is, this is our hero. This is someone we need to protect. But rather than hanging their heads in shame, which is what they should have done. It was disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. So that's who Zoe Quinn is. Never wrote a comic book, barely did a video game, but was at the center of one of the biggest scandals in pop culture. And therefore, let's give her a comic book at DC. Why? Why would you do that unless you were a total social justice warrior asshole? Why would you do that? What are you trying to tell people? What are you telling people when you do that? That isn't liberalism. That's not a case of a great creator like Brian K. Vaughan writing Y the Last Man, like what it would be like if men went extinct except for one and you're living in a world of women. That's a cool Twilight Zone style idea. Brian K. Vaughan's a brilliant writer. Frankly, whatever Brian K. Vaughan wants to write, I want to read it. Brian K. Vaughan is not a social justice warrior. I'm sure he's a liberal. He's not a social justice warrior. You know how I know? I've never heard him call me a Nazi, and I've never heard him try to tell me that because of my belief system, I should not believe or I should not buy Y the Last Man. I've never felt excluded by Brian K. Vaughan. I've never felt like to Brian K. Vaughan, my identity was more important than my $5 to him. And that's what social justice warriors are. Zoe Quinn hired Robbie Rodriguez to draw her ridiculous book. Robbie Rodriguez, of course, I've never met him, decides to send me a picture of like photographs of his asshole. And I laugh when I say it because it's just so ridiculous. Just hatefully showing me like in front of everyone on Twitter. Hey, Ethan Van Sciver, this is for you. So you've got Zoe Quinn. This is your lead book. You launched this entire line with Zoe Quinn's Goddess Mode as the lead project of your entire line of new Vertigo books. You've got Zoe Quinn, most famous for the Five Guys scandal. That's what it came to be known. People use Five Guys burgers and everything, you know. There's 5 guys that she slept with that her boyfriend listed publicly. How humiliating. And then she hires a guy who is literally sending out pictures of his rectum. He became known as Robbie the Rectum to me on Twitter to tell me to shut up. Actually, I don't know what he was trying to tell me. I don't want to think about it. Unhinged Crank says, you missed my super chat. Oh, I'm on a roll. It's hard to read super chats when I'm on a roll. I'll get to it. I promise you I will go back and read super chats. Keep them coming. Thank you. If you have something to say, if you have a comment, I will read them all at the end. Okay, so that's Goddess Mode. That's the first book. That's the first book of the line that we were discussing. This is the book. This is what killed Vertigo. And you can sit there at Rich Johnson. You can say, well, they weren't offering that good of deals anymore. Hey, times are tough all over. There are good, talented creators out there that are going to work for whatever at this point. You know how I know? Because you listed the ones over here, Black Mask, Vault, Image. Look, Vertigo is DC Comics. It's connected to Warner Brothers. It's a good deal. Whatever they're paying you, it's going to be a better deal than going to Vault. Nobody's going to read your book. So Vertigo drove away, some of the bigger creators who were barely working in comics anymore. Neil Gaiman isn't working in comics except when he just kind of feels like it. He's a millionaire. He's in television now. Why? Because of Vertigo. So that was Goddess Mode. It sold horribly. And when I mean horribly, horribly, it sold horribly. And the thing about it is the low sales wouldn't even be that bad. It wouldn't be so bad. Just the humiliating, Great Depression level sales of that comic book if it wasn't for the PR nightmare that was attached to it. The DC has to suffer through the scandal of working with Zoe Quinn, the scandal of working with Robbie Rodriguez. And that was just the beginning. The next book was called Border Town. Border Town. The entire creative team is made up of anti-Comicsgate harassers on Twitter. The entire creative team, including a trans woman named Tamara Bonvillain, who meets up in secret chat groups with other SJWs, the Whisper campaign, one in particular called Deadliners, secret Facebook group that we're not supposed to know about, but of course we know about these things. Comicsgate's pretty good. Deadliners. Tamara Bonvillain is in Deadliners calling for people's heads. They can't even stand her in Deadliners. She's too extreme for the social justice warriors within the Whisper Network hidden Facebook secret message groups. She's the colorist on this book, Border Town. The artist or the writer? The writer. The writer is a fellow named Eric Esquivel. He releases a book because he's Latin American. He's Latino, Latinx, Latinx. He releases a comic book that is utterly the most racist, vile, hateful screed that you can possibly imagine. Your boy Zach did videos about it, did reviews. So did the great Just Some Guy. You can look up the reviews for Border Town if you want to see the level of vitriol and hate, ugly, disgusting hate in this book, Border Town. That's SJW bullshit. That's not liberalism. Hate isn't liberal. Hate is social justice warrior. Liberals, they dislike, they hate some stuff, but actual hate, propagating hate, is social justice warrior. Bullshit, as Rich Johnson points out right here. That's social justice warrior bullshit. But that's not the main problem. The main problem is Eric Esquivel and this book, which was published. It did see, I think, 3 or 4 issues that came out. A young woman came forward and said, I'm terrified to do this, but I've got to do it now. He is my rapist. And he does it to other girls too, some of whom are underage. You can read her, if you just look up Eric Esquivel on Google, you can read her very sad testimony about what happened to her and how it makes her feel to see him receiving praise, getting a new comic book at Vertigo, knowing what he did to her, and seeing the way he treats women in general. I would say he treats women like cum dumpsters, to coin a phrase. Mr. Belvedere says, have you read Transmetropolitan? Miss Good Vertigo. Yeah. It's great stuff. Great stuff. All right. So Eric Esquivel, giant PR nightmare. When asked, when his peers, when the other creators on the comic book, like Tamara Bonvillain, were asked why they tolerated, when they admitted that they even knew, they knew about this. They knew what he was doing. They knew what Eric Esquivel was. They knew who he was, but it didn't matter because he was a social justice warrior, which clearly does not mean liberal, because if social justice warrior meant liberal, the fact that you allegedly have raped women makes you not a liberal, makes you not somebody who liberals will associate with. But if you're a social justice warrior, it's just a matter of whether or not what you've done to women is publicly known, if it's being made an issue of, how it makes you look when you're trying to virtue signal and you associate with this person. And it matters how important you are. Social justice warriors will never let go of the Clintons, ever. Social justice warriors will never let go until it becomes politically inconvenient or until it's just time to virtue signal by eating them alive. And that is what ended up happening to Eric Esquivel when asked why, when you knew who he was and what he did, why did you still work with him? Why didn't you do something about it? Tamara Bonvillain said, he told me he stopped. So that's good. That's good. Take your word. Ted Bundy. I think he told his girlfriend he stopped too. I stopped. I quit. So that book was canceled in disgrace. DC scrambling, another PR nightmare. And by the way, it didn't sell. That's the sad underlying point of all of this. That comic also did not sell. Didn't make any money for DC Comics. Brought them nothing but grief. No money. It was never the point. The point was never to make money for DC. The point was to say F you to Republicans, people who voted for Trump, people who wanted to secure the border. It was just to give them the middle finger. That was the entire point of the comic. That is why DC Comics was tricked, I say, with mercy and compassion, into paying these people for these comics. Last but not least, we have a book called The Second Coming by Richard Pace and Mark, what's his name? Man, I can't, Mark, you guys will tell me in the chat. I don't know. That's the writer. Richard Pace is an artist who, never fulfilled a Kickstarter. It's been 5 years. He took the money and ran. That's first. Second of all, Richard Pace has never gotten work at DC Comics until he became anti-Comicsgate and became a bully online. As soon as Richard Pace, who I've known for many years, okay, who's actually spoken to my family, I kind of cut him off around 2010, but he knew my family up until that point. I spoke to him often. When Richard Pace made himself useful to social justice warriors by telling them everything he knew about me and my family, suddenly he gets a job. As long as you preach hatred for Comicsgaters full-time on Twitter, we'll see what we can do for you. That's what a social justice warrior is. I don't recall that. Is that, let's see, Bendis, did he do that? Let's see, Megan Hetrick, Karen Berger, Shelley Bond, Neil Gaiman. Did Neil Gaiman ever repay favors for bullying by giving them work on Sandman? I don't know, Rich Johnson. Amend your article. Amend your article. Richard Pace, given a book at DC Comics, decides the book that he wants to do is a book about how Jesus Christ was a failure. He came to Earth. He was supposed to be the savior. He was supposed to be a superhero, but he got killed. Whoops. Whoops. He blew it. So God, very disappointed with him, sends him back down to Earth to learn how to be a real superhero with a guy who is basically a knockoff of Superman. Superman's going to teach Jesus Christ what he should have done. This is what Andy Corey brought to DC Comics. And the 250,000 Christians who signed the petition begging DC Comics not to do this to them or themselves. Every single comic Andy Corey brought over to DC Comics and used Vertigo as his personal ideological toilet. Every single one. And many of them, by the way, didn't even come out because the sales were so poor. The initial sales were so poor, they didn't even bother releasing them. Second Coming, the book that mocked Christianity and Jesus Christ, and by the way, didn't even understand what Jesus Christ was and what his mission was, enough to parody him. You want to do a satire of Jesus Christ? Surely you understand that Jesus Christ knew he was going to die, and that was the whole point of his life. Surely you understand. But you don't understand that. Oh, my bad. Here's a book that you can read to figure it out. It's got a much, much, much bigger print run than even Neil Gaiman has ever gotten for DC Comics. Here's a book you can read. You can figure it out. So, the extreme failure. Nolan Nerd, thanks for $5. In 1992, at 11 years old, my dad took my brothers and me to the theater to watch Basic Instinct. He chose it over Batman Returns. It was the F of the century. Whoops. Yeah. So I just want to know, Rich Johnson, thank you for this article. This was good of you to try to push back. Look at these idiots down here. You've got how many idiots? Let me count them. 26 idiots. Well said, Rich. Stupid should hurt, which would put these Comicsgate idiots in constant pain. I'm betting most of these Comicsgate supporters don't actually read comics. Hey, a-holes, none of you are reading your own comics. That's why they keep getting canceled. None of you are reading these comics that are created for you, to amuse you, to give us the finger, to amuse you. You're not even buying them. You people are responsible for this. You 26 people in the comments section, you're responsible for this. Nothing about Karen Berger, nothing about this and that, nothing about new deals. People are starving right now. Everybody wants to work in comics. They'll take whatever deal they can get. It's just a matter of finding people with pure hearts, good ideas, talent, who want to entertain people, who want to sell comics, make money for their company, and then make money for themselves. Those four things. So I appreciate the lecture about liberalism in comics, you jackass. Shove it up your asshole. Excuse me. I know I'm not supposed to be cursing. Ryan Magus says, "You are my sunshine, Ethan. Do you remember the Sharpie Last Supper dream? Does it mean more now?" Wow, I forgot about that. I don't know. I have to think about it. Yeah, my wife had a dream. That what did I draw? A mural in black Sharpie of the Last Supper with me and all my friends in Comicsgate. And I had a word balloon coming out of my mouth, and the word balloon was black. And I was about to fill it in. And Andrea said, "What are you saying?" And I said, "I'm deciding that now." And then she woke up. That's spooky. I don't know. That was a year ago that she had that dream. That was in a video. Oh, yeah. So again, I don't know. Continue lying. Bleeding Cool. Continue lying to people. Continue impressing yourselves, lying to each other. You can't lie to us. You can't lie to the stores that are going out of business. They know better. You can't lie to all the people who were offended, who were sexually abused by the people that you're defending, by the people that you're covering for, your friends. Write more articles about this, Rich. Write more articles about this, you idiot. Manic Boy Production says, as a liberal, these SJWs are completely corrupt. Art censorship and art segregation stands completely against freedom of speech and expression, and they support these terrible concepts. Rest in peace, Vertigo. Thank you, Manic Boy Productions. That was wonderfully said. You only have a few characters that you can use in a $10 super chat. You used every one of them perfectly. Now that I've totally gone off on a screed, it's like this one's a lot more flippant. I don't even know if I'm going to do this one, but I'll just show you this real quick. Blatant nepotism at work at Marvel in new Spider-Man comic, says Rich Johnson. Rich Johnson is a smart ass. This is an article about how Stan Lee gave some of his family some work at Marvel. And it's meant to make fun of the idea that J.J. Abrams called Marvel Comics and got his son, Henry Abrams, a brand new Spider-Man book. What, for his birthday? What was it? What did he do to deserve that? J.J. Abrams doesn't work for Marvel Comics. So what exactly was this? It's not the same as Stan Lee giving work to somebody in his family. That's just something that, well, yeah, that's nepotism. This was something else. This was something weird. And it's not even that big of a deal. It's just stop fucking lying about it. Stop lying about it. This is not the same thing. Stop being cutesy. Stop being funny while comic book stores go out of business all around you. That's one thing that Bleeding Cool is actually good about. They actually report the closing down of comic stores all around them. They do that all the time. Ah, well, 5 more comic stores closed. Meanwhile, Comicsgate. They think that liberals, they think that social justice has never been in comics before. Look at this one comic from 1942. He's punching Hitler. That's totally social justice warriorism. Jeg says, maybe DC flushed Vertigo to stop the SJWs from infecting them further. Use low sales as an excuse, like a fox chewing off a trap leg, or not. I don't know. I mean, it's possible, but I mean, honestly, sales are so bad right now. What you can look at, just to understand what DC Comics is doing, is what they're doing across their whole line. There's stuff that isn't working. It's just not selling, and so they're trimming. They're tightening their belts. It's like, okay, so we're now going to put out half as many comics as we used to, because we just, I don't know. These books aren't selling enough. And maybe it's because there are too many comics out there. Maybe the shelves are flooded with garbage, and maybe we need to kind of pull back. Dan DiDio said there is not enough worthy talent out there to have this many comics coming out of DC Comics. So that kind of puts the lie to what Rich Johnson is saying here. If there are fewer chairs in this game of musical chairs and a lot more people who are trying to sit down, you can offer them more competitive deals slanted towards the company because people are desperate to work. So the idea that Vertigo closed down because, hey, look, man, you don't get to keep what you have anymore. It's just not okay. Yeah, some people who are in wealthy, strong positions are going to say, I'm not going to do that. That's not what I'm going to do. Most people right now, and when I say most, I mean 95% of comic book professionals right now are going to still take that deal. And there are many, many, many talented people who have sword and sorcery, sex ideas for comics, whatever it is that they want to do, that would have come in and not all of them are going to succeed. Most Vertigo books fail, but 1 or 2 of them might be a standout. Mongo the Clown says, Hail Caesar, enjoyed your live broadcast earlier. Went and trolled Matt Zoller's sites. He replied, was hilarious. Hey, check your P.O. box. I have a big crate of, I have to open all these packages. I do have, I did go to my P.O. box a week ago. I'm going to go back and I'm going to do a big, I'll do a big thing where I open more packages. I love you guys. Thank you guys for sending me stuff. I appreciate it. All right, so I guess that's all I want to say about this. I'm going to read some super chats now. If you guys have any questions or comments, now's a good time we can talk. But I'm angry about this again. How many more lies? How much more are you supposed to tolerate? Lies, just lie after lie from these people, and they do it with a smirk. They're lying to you with a smirk on their face. And yeah, it's the comic book industry is dying. I don't I you know I love the comic book industry. I'm angry with the comic book industry. Eric Hawk says if people were paying attention, Ruin Johnson just outed the true targets of the culture war, and right in front of our very eyes. That's something else. That is true, isn't it? Christian fathers and husbands and fathers are bots. They must be bots. Why would they be so proud? Why would they be so proud of being Christian husbands and fathers when they could be the director? They could announce that they are the director of Star Wars, The Last Jedi, something like that. All right. Let's see. Grundy born on a Monday. Thanks for 99 cents. SJW mentality made my mom retire from U of M, says Aaron Stepien. Yeah. A lot of people, it's not just in the entertainment industry, it's everywhere. It's in business everywhere you go. I don't know what to do about it except to stand up to it. I'm very fortunate. I'm in a position now where I can say whatever I want to say. And I can watch this very carefully. I can advise other people on what to do when they find themselves sworn by SJWs, and I can expose it to you. You know, I'm fortunate. I'm very fortunate, and God is taking care of my family. We're doing better now. I was talking to a comic book pro today, someone who's not Comicsgate, who was worried about their job in the industry, in the mainstream industry. And, I said, I was making this much money at DC Comics and I worked my ass off and I was always broke. The minute I stepped away, the minute I gave myself breathing room, the minute I decided to take my life into my own hands and do this, I mean, this is important. Having a YouTube channel is very important. I can breathe. I can do whatever I want to do. And there's money. There's just always money. And the bills are getting paid. It's wonderful. We bought a new house. I'm thinking of buying a car, but I'm going to wait 3 months. Well, I'm going to buy a new car when Hunter, who's back home from college, starts taking his own bills. I talked to Andrew about this. I'm like, when he pays his own insurance, his own telephone bill, and his own, what's the other thing? Health insurance, telephone bill, and car insurance. That's a car payment. So let's just buy a new car. She's like, that makes sense. Let's see. Unhinged Crank says, is it any surprise that The Last Jedi was so creepy and cynical coming from this creepy and cynical guy who celebrates harassment of fan criticism? That's Ryan Johnson. Christopher Ryan, Bird of Bloodhaven says, why are you so sexy? That's a matter of taste, and a rare taste indeed. Good for you. Kid Caribbean 70 says, watching you destroy Darth Roundhead was beautiful. Glinzer says, Ryan Johnson's middle name should be Hasno, as in Ryan Hasno Johnson. T. Masaki says, keep the faith, Uncle Ethan, let him have it. Let me see here. ES says, hi, Ethan, fellow Ethan here. Have you ever written any Star Wars stories? No, I haven't. I've never written any that I can think of. Also, how often do you have people send you Star Wars related work? All the time, all the time. Star Wars is funny because it's not something I personally want to work on ever. I don't want to work on Star Wars in any capacity. I just want to enjoy it. Most of the stuff that I really, really, really like is stuff that I would never want to be a part of. I would rather be a member of the audience, and that's definitely Star Wars. If I think being too close to it would ruin it for me. And, being so close to comic books ruined it for me. I used to love, love, love superhero comics. And I can't read any of the ones from the era that I worked because I know everyone involved with them. I saw them. It's hard. It kills it for you. The illusion dies. When you work in an industry like that, when you work in a creative industry. So Star Wars can stay over here. Sopranos, Deadwood, the movie Deadwood was great. All the things that I really, really love. I don't want to know. I just want to. I want to consume. Jason Mathis says we should really thank Ryan Johnson. Okay. Unhinged Crank says, let's see. You missed my super chat. I think I got it now. Unhinged Crank says some of us have IBS. We can't take pics. Damn it. Oh, he's talking about up his own butthole. Let's see. As a liberal, Jag. Mongo the Clown. I got Ethan or Eric Hawk. I got. Achar 77 says, as Doomcock says, stay angry. I don't want to. I'm a happy guy. I'm not angry at all. I get angry when I see lies like this. But I mean, the thing about Bleeding Cool is that it's meant to make me angry. It's meant to comfort and soothe SJWs who are complicit in what I consider to be just social crimes. I mean, and creative, just the destruction of a creative industry. It's meant to make them feel like everyone else is stupid, but you're smart and you're not doing anything wrong. And it's a lie. That does make me angry, but again, that article was written to make me angry. That article was written to make your boy Zach angry. And they don't even talk about Preacher. Why didn't he talk about what goes on at Vertigo with Preacher? I mean, did he mention Preacher? That book was so homophobic, and I'm not homophobic by their own terms. They use the FAGG word quite a bit, OT, quite a bit in Preacher. Guys calling each other that, and that book would be toxically masculine by anyone's frame of reference in 2019. Also, one of the biggest Vertigo comic books of all time. Jeg says, too many big two comics to follow before SJWs, to be honest. Barb Rogers says, Martina Marcota tweeted that SJWs are infesting your grandma's knitting club. I shit you not. Got it. That was funny, Barb. Dancing Mike says, how can you defend working with Kyle Ritter, an admitted colorist? Colorism must be stopped. Scott's Mind says, thank you for showing the way, EVS. Hard work and committing to make a good product is what it's all about. Unhinged Crank says, my biggest loser chat, EVS. Your biggest loser chat? Thank you guys so much. I hope you had fun. I don't know who's streaming from here. Aiden Kale says, how can we ensure Comicsgate never happens again? Well, it depends on what you think Comicsgate is. Comicsgate to me is a movement of professionals and consumers who are rising up against this. I think it was intended when the term was originally coined, it was intended to just say that people who oppose social justice warriors in comics are doing something scandalous. And that's why it's called Comicsgate. It was meant to make us seem like criminals, like Nazis, like racists, like people who hate women. And over time, we turned it around and took it on as a label. If that's what you're going to call us, let's show you who we are, who we actually are, and adopt the label and use it. Use it to, mean whatever we want it to mean. And I've said this over and over again. I mean, Comicsgate was meant to slander us because gate means scandal. And we took it, and by virtue of our success, of our positivity, of our attitude, I think we've made Comicsgate mean something that's good. And there's some people who still argue about what Comicsgate means. Comicsgate is a consumer movement that respects the customer and puts your own ego, your own ideologies second to telling a good story. That's what Comicsgate is. It isn't fighting SJWs with far right-wing comics as much as some people wish it were. It's not. It never was. It's about selling comic books to a large number of people, to as many people as possible. We want everyone to buy our comics, of course. That's the whole credo of the hot dog salesman that your boy Zach used to talk about all the time. Be happy. Do something good. Do something fun that makes the world a better place. And I mean, when it comes to comic books, um, I think the best that comics can be is a fun diversion that takes you away from whatever stresses you have in your life, your own concerns, the horrors of cable news. The best that comic books can be is just a quick little ray of sunshine, fun, adventure, excitement, horror, danger, sex, violence, something that lights your imagination up. I don't know why people would want comics to ever be anything else. I don't know when they could be as good as that. So with that, I want to say good night to you guys, and go find another good live stream to join. And thanks for all the super chats. You bought a lot of diapers, and I guess like watermelons. I'm gonna probably buy some watermelons tomorrow. Love you guys. See you again tomorrow. Bye bye.